Y finga un down, si bili mo katan diga so tengo que te
Welcome. I'm Chris Langley, and this is I on Inyo Mono Nature Education. And to help us understand what's going on, I have Neal Fox from the Sierra STEM in June Lake to talk about his program. Hi, Neal.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. So, first of all, STEM. What does STEM mean? I hear it all the time.
It's a great question. So I'll break down the whole name. So Sierra, STEM. So Sierra is obviously because we're out here in the beautiful eastern Sierra Nevada mountains. And like I said, I'm based out of June Lake, California. And then the STEM is kind of a education buzzword, but the acronym stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And to be totally honest with you, we focus a lot more on the science than on the math side of that spectrum.
Well, I don't think you have to do it all.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, and how did well, first of all, who are you?
Yeah.
How did you get here in Sierra and with this program?
That's a great question. So I did my doctorate in neuroscience out on the East Coast.
And so you're Dr. Fox.
That's true. I'm Dr. Fox. Yes. So
sounds like part of a folklore.
Yeah. So my wife and I moved out to the West Coast so that she could go to school in the Bay Area at Berkeley. And then after a few years, I had been a researcher out in the Bay Area at University of California, San Francisco, which is a hospital out there. I ended up moving into high school teaching instead of doing research. I really wanted to be able to focus more on, spending time with kids and opening their eyes to science education. After a couple of years of doing that, my wife and I, who had been coming out to the East Side for many years backpacking, we're backpackers. That's how, we discovered the area. We got married at Convict Lake up in Mono County many, many years ago at this point. And then we moved out here so that she could accept a position working for Mono County. Once we moved out here, I realized that this was my opportunity to try to start a new organization that could be focused on showing kids what I loved about the East Side, which is the incredible nature, the incredible communities, both ecological and human, that we have here. So that's really how I started Sierra STEM.
And does your wife work with you now on it, or she finished her education?
She finished her law degree, and now she works for Mono County in the county council.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
That's really excellent. What do you do, and why do you do it? What results do you look for?
Yeah, so we at Sierra STEM, we're primarily focused on getting kids out into nature, so outdoor education, and then also STEM enrichment. So rather than just focusing on leadership development and team skills, which are really important, and those are things that we do as part of the Sierra STEM programs, what differentiates us from some of the other sort of leadership development outdoor education programs is that we focus a lot on science. So the kids actually come out, they do hands-on experiments. They also learn, I like to talk about, ecological and human communities. So we focus a lot on ecological communities, whether that's going up to Mono Lake or down to Death Valley. But we also do a lot focused on human communities. And that certainly includes the indigenous people that, have lived out here since time immemorial.
Well, that's the one I saw you with at Eastern California Museum. That day, I was really pleased I was going to get to see your program in action. It was almost accidental that I got to be there. But why don't you describe that one first, since the local audience might be interested in what was going on with local kids?
Sure. Well, that wasn't actually with local kids. That one was
that's right. I'm sorry.
Right from the Bay Area. But yeah, so Sierra STEM, we couldn't do what we do if it weren't for our local community partners. Like I mentioned, Mono Lake, we work very closely with the Mono Lake Committee to have access to the amazing resources that they have to bring kids out to learn about Mono Lake and that unique ecosystem. We also work with the Eastern California Museum down here in Inyo County. And the Eastern California Museum has been an amazing partner in connecting Sierra STEM with indigenous tribal elders from the Big Pine tribe, from the Fort Independence Indian community, and various other groups. So on that day that you were able to make it, I was so happy that you were able to see us in action. I really just delivered the kids. I brought the kids there, and I had worked with the Eastern California Museum on developing a general program that would allow the kids to see the indigenous community through the lens of basketry. So baskets have many aspects of community.
And they also have a wonderful collection of historic. Yeah,
exactly. That's actually how I ended up wanting to bring the kids there. So baskets have many aspects of culture and community, whether that's cooking, which is of course important for community and culture, religious practices, child rearing. Baskets are important for that. So all of these different things that are aspects of community can be encapsulated in basketry. So we had these tribal elders come out, introduce themselves to these students, and then the students did rotations to learn about basket weaving, both historical and also today, and learn about the materials that are used in this, very famously scarce environment to do things like basketry.
They seemed very engaged to me. The students did. I don't know if they'd ever seen anything like that before, but I know that the indigenous leaders, the elders that were there, each seemed to have brought an assistant from the tribe, and they seemed very relaxed, which is surprising to me because sometimes they're kind of put off by having to show something. So
yeah, well, like I said, I really just worked with the Eastern California Museum to try to design a program that would be accessible to students. But it was really the incredible, partnership of the ECM and also the elders who were able to connect the environment with these aspects of community for these kids. And the kids were incredibly lucky, so I'm glad they were engaged because this is a really unique experience for them.
Yeah, and you had some trouble with just the climate. The fact that we were having so much rain required you to be pretty flexible with it.
Yeah, well, rain for you guys down here. You guys got some snow too, actually, back in February and March. But yeah, we had quite a bit of snow, and I think every small business out here was faced with challenges from the incredible winter that we had.
How do you work with the different schools that you engage with? Do you create a individual program, or can you tell them these are the things that we're going to do? I mean,
yeah, that's a great question. So Sierra STEM essentially right now has 10 to 12 modules. And those modules can be, for example, water in the Eastern Sierra, right? So that could be broken up into talking about LEDWP diversions and the history of water. It could also be a module on the ecology of water in the Eastern Sierra. So there we might go and visit Mono Lake.
Are these day-long modules, basically?
So most of the modules are half days, like a morning or an afternoon or an evening. And basically the schools that might come out for, most of our schools come out to the east side from the Bay Area or LA or Boston or anywhere else that wants to work with me. And we'll basically work with the schools to identify the modules that sort of fit into their learning goals. So we've had trips that are exclusively STEM, exclusively science. And then we've had trips, like one of my favorite trips, which is the one that you visited for, is the Conceptions of Community trip. And on that trip, we talk about ecological and human communities in balance with each other and how they interact in our unique environment out here.
Okay, I don't remember exactly how long you were there, but it was enough time for all three groups to experience all three experiences. Then what do you do when they get back on the transportation? Or what happens next with that?
So for the day that we have about Paiute communities, we typically will visit the Eastern California Museum in the morning. The students will have various stations where they might, walk around the native plant garden to see the materials that are used for basketry. of course, they'll spend time looking at the actual collection of baskets. They have one of the biggest collections in California.
Seems like it.
In the Eastern California Museum of Indigenous Baskets. And then in the afternoon, students will go and they'll actually have an opportunity to learn how to do some basketry themselves. So we buy kits for them, and the students will learn how to do the weaving, and they get to see how difficult it is. And of course, they're doing a much simpler version than what the Indigenous people here can do.
Yeah, I think they sat down, I'll just make this basket.
Yeah, exactly.
That isn't exactly how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. So the kids will get a chance to, use the reeds to weave their own basket. And they also get to experience, some community while they're doing that. So, realizing that it takes time to do this, and they get to spend time with their friends, with their chaperones, having snacks and just enjoying each other's company, which is a big part of, for many of these kids. Those were all 8th graders that came out. All of those 8th graders.
There were like 66 or something.
Yeah, between 60 and 70. They came out, for some of them, that was their first time away from home. So that's another big part of Sierra STEM's programming, is that it's not just about the education. It's also about the experience of being away from home, of learning how to cook. We don't do microwave ramen noodles. They actually learn how to, cook. One of the meals that we always do is...
I wasn't quite sure who were the teachers, but there were several teachers with you as well, right?
Yeah, so we require that the schools bring along adults. And while Sierra STEM manages the sort of risk management, programming, all of those kinds of, and logistics, the teachers are there to participate with the students, to learn alongside the students and to model that, but also to manage, behavioral issues and things like that might come up.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for, is the ECM going to be involved again next year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still have...
I'm on the board, so I am interested.
Yes. So Sierra STEM runs between 8 and 12 trips a year right now. Some of those trips are out here to the east side, most of them, but some of them are actually to other places. So just in 2 weeks from now, in mid-June, I'm bringing a group of students out to Hetch Hetchy, which is on the western side of Yosemite National Park. And there we'll be talking about water again, but we'll be talking about water because this group is from San Francisco. So we'll be talking about water in the context of the water wars.
And that they actually drink that water.
They actually drink the water that comes right from Hetch Hetchy. Yeah. So we'll be taking the kids on a backpacking trip, and then they'll also get to go whitewater rafting.
You mentioned summer camps. Why don't you talk a little more detail about that? Because I assume now is when you sign kids up, or is that all done?
Yeah, no, we're still accepting registrations.
Is it by individual since school is in session, or is it still by school?
So most of what Sierra STEM does is we bring students out from outside of the Eastern Sierra, and we work with schools to design a program that will meet that school's learning goals, whether that's educational, sort of STEM related, or history, or whether that's social emotional learning, etc. So the summer camps that we're running, this is actually the first time that we're doing this. We're working with local nonprofits from June Lake and the Mono Basin. So the Deschambault Creek Foundation, the June Lake Women's Club, and the June Lake Little Loopers nonprofit organization to fund a camp that is for students to come, during the summer for week-long experiences that are just day camps instead of overnight. So we have 3 camps that are running. One, which unfortunately is sold out, is for 6 to 9-year-olds, and that's called My Environment and Me, where the students will get to learn about where the mountains came from. And
is that overnight?
None of these are overnight. These are all day camps. Yeah. Okay. So that one's for 6 to 9-year-olds. We have 2 camps that are still, we still have plenty of spots open that are for middle school students. So ages, I think we said 10 to 14, so grades 5 to 9 essentially. And those 2 programs, one is Brain Camp. So I mentioned that my PhD was in neuroscience. I just wanted to bring something, to the kids that I'm really passionate about. So the kids will actually get to dissect sheep brains and cow eyes, and they'll actually get to run their own little psychology experiment. So that'll be a really exciting camp for the kids. And then the other camp is sort of more what you might expect on the east side. That's a water ecology camp where we'll be visiting Mono Lake, Deschambault Creek, Fern Lake up by June Lake, etc. So it's various different programs available for local kids this year.
Okay, now how do I get junior? I want a junior to experience one of these. How do I do that? What context can you give us for signing kids up?
If you just go to sierrastem.com and then look at the camps page under the services that we offer, you'll see all of these programs listed. We also have it available in Spanish for anybody who is a native Spanish speaker, so you can sort of pick the way to register that you want, and we're just really excited to be able to work with local kids this year.
Nice. What about the coming year? Do you have schools and signed up already, or does that happen later in the summer?
Yeah, so I basically run usually about 3 to 7 months in advance is when I'm registering groups. So I have trips booked for June. We have the summer camps all through July. We have a couple of retreats happening in August that are more short term, just a single night. And then we have a backpacking trip happening in October. And then we're already booking right now into next year. So we'll be bringing some kids out to the east side from San Francisco in May. And then hoping to also I had a group from Boston, all the way from Boston, that came out to Inyo and Mono counties. So that group I'm hoping to have out again next year as well.
New kids, but
same school.
Got it. Name some of the partnerships. You went through them pretty quickly there.
Yeah.
Who do you work with to make it all possible?
Sure. Well, we contract with a lot of groups just in order to house the kids, right? So there's a lot of that around. So, we love working with Convict Lake Resort. That is one of the places that they have some big cabins for us to bring the students. We, for the education side of things, that's the logistics side. And the education side, we have an incredible partnership with the Mono Lake Committee, which just does amazing work up in the, northern Mono County. We work with the Eastern California Museum. We brought kids to Yosemite National Park and Death Valley National Park. We obviously bring kids to Manzanar National Historic Site, which has been a really unique opportunity for the kids, especially in that Conceptions of Community group, or in that program, to learn about the history and resilience of that community during World War II.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
that's a major part of what making the project work, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
You're a salesman as well as an educator and a scientist and a doctor.
Not my favorite part. My favorite part is not doing the sales pitch.
Yeah, is going out with the kids.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think that the greatest asset that we have, the Sierra STEM has, is the community that we live in, the incredible, beautiful environment that we live in. And I'm always looking for new partners to work with. If you have something that you think might be interesting for Sierra STEM to partner on, we're always bringing out kids. We're always, excited to find new opportunities to partner with other locals.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities for partnership here, because a lot of organizations really thrive on being partners with something like what you're bringing. So
yeah, thanks.
Hopefully they will get a hold of you.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. It's good having you here finally.
Thanks.
Chris Langley, we had Neal Fox from Sierra STEM with us, and thank you for watching. Welcome. I'm Chris Langley, and we have Eye on the Friends of the Inyo. And representing them, we have Jaime Wolters. Hi, I've known you a long time.
We have.
We in all sorts of situations, good, bad, and indifferent. So
I think we go way back to 2008.
Yeah, wow. Was I alive in 2000? Excellent. So who are you? I know who you are, but why don't we introduce you to the audience?
Sure.
How did you get here is always my question.
Well, the sort of long story abbreviated is I was born in Amsterdam. I grew up part of my life in Guatemala. I fell in love and moved to the US to be with my wife, Sarah. And we lived in Los Angeles for a really long time. I worked for a nonprofit there called Metabolic Studio. And that was an arts organization that was really interested in environmental issues, and the water that Los Angeles gets from the Eastern Sierra was one of those issues. And so in 2008, we came up and started exploring this place, and that's how I got to know about it and got to know community members and the land. And then my wife and I bought a house about 10 years after that, and been living here now. I started working with Friends of the Inyo, and I get to be the Desert Lands organizer, working on desert issues and more.
And you live in the Alabamas. I always feel very comfortable knowing you're there.
Yeah.
For some reason. I just know you pretty well, and you're a pretty good guy. So, yeah, the Metabolic Studio, I learned how to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow on a glass orchestra, which is wine glasses filled with they're tuned to various depths. And that was amazing. It was not a skill that I ever needed, to be honest, and I haven't used it since then, but it was very fun to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know how you got here. Talk a little bit about the Friends of the Inyo. What does it do, and how long has it been around? And we're headed to talk about the conglomerate Mesa, but I wanted to get a little context going.
Yeah, so Friends of the Inyo was founded in 1986. It exists to protect the land and waters of the Eastern Sierra. And the reach of our work at this point is all of Inyo County and into Mono County. I think probably the Bodie Hills area is kind of the northern end of
so more
the area
than the
that we work.
Inyos, basically.
More than the Inyos itself,
that was
yeah.
historic where it started, but
Exactly.
yeah, I've always wondered about that, and I asked you before we started recording this about it. What are some of the projects? I know you were the director of the Owens Lake Bird Festival. That was pretty good.
I think director is a big word. No, I was assisting and helping make that happen, and it was a really good event. Yeah, we had a good turnout. We had beautiful weather.
The birders are always the nicest people.
Yeah.
They're kind of gentle and passionate about birds. A passion that I don't particularly share, but I got to do a tour about the filming around Owens Lake, which was fun.
Well, this year we turned it back into a 3-day event. So we were able to get quite a few tours in there, including lots of ones that didn't relate to birding on Owens Lake specifically, but went to, for example, Conglomerate Mesa or to Centennial Flat, which is near Darwin, and was kind of an epic place to see the wildflowers this year, and into the Alabama Hills themselves for wildflowers and birding as well. So yeah, it was a really diverse program.
Yeah, it was. It was good. And the food was good too.
That's right.
Okay, so what's happening with Conglomerate Mesa? We'll kind of circle around that for a while. Now, I thought we had succeeded in stopping them being, what is it?
K2 Gold is the name of the mining company. They have a local sort of company that they started called Mojave Precious Metals. And to give folks context of the area that we're talking about, so you've got the Owens Lake itself, and there's the town of Keeler on the east shores of Owens Lake, and in the mountains east of that is this beautiful mesa called Conglomerate Mesa. It's called conglomerate because of the type of rock that's there. So it was like it's various different types of rocks that were mashed together into a kind of
a
conglomerate.
I have a piece from there I should have brought. I didn't think of that.
That would be a good sample.
I knew what conglomerate was, but I actually saw how much conglomerate rock there is there.
So yeah, it's a beautiful place. It's up high around 7,500 feet. There's Joshua Tree Forest and Pinyon Pine Forest kind of blending together, which is an interesting, sort of makes for an interesting ecological zone. And it's been threatened by various mining companies wanting to exploit the fine dust of gold that's mixed in with some of the soil. And so there's been, I guess, over the past several decades, 11 mining companies that have tried their luck, so to speak, at exploiting that place. And K2 Gold, Mojave Precious Metals, is the last of those, and it's interested in doing exploration in order to prove that there is a viable site there for
Because they
an
have
actual
to
gold
they
mine.
actually proof it. I mean, it has to be proved. They can't just say we want to establish drilling there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is a.
Get a
I think I do.
claim.
Yeah, there is some kind of requirement to show that there is genuine viability of the claims that you stake. But I mean, really, it seems like what they're interested in is to show that there is gold there, and then sell the whole operation to a different company, probably a larger company that maybe would do the gold mine. And the challenge and the problem that we see is that even though the exploration phase, which now they want to do a second one of, is damaging in and of itself to a degree, what they're ultimately looking to do, which is to create a gold mine that would be an open pit gold mine. It's what's called a cyanide heap leach method of gold mine extraction. So you take tons and tons of material, you excavate it, basically carve down the mountain in the process, mound it up, and then you sprinkle cyanide over it. That dribbles down, kind of catches the gold particles, flows into a big pool, which birds and animals see as potential drinking water, one of the many problems, and then they extract the gold from it. So they're just looking to prove that there's enough gold there. And what we as people that are trying to protect the land are trying to do is say, don't even do the exploration, that the ultimate goal of this project would be so destructive to the land that we just, as the people of Owens Valley that want to protect nature, we don't want to see that. And so they requested to do a larger exploration than the last one. Again, the last one was done with helicopters in order to not create roads, and they were only allowed to do a very minimal footprint of damage where the actual drill sites were. And they did a limited number of them. This time around, they want to drill 120 holes, and we're talking thousands of feet deep. They want to build a road in order to get the equipment in, because that's more cost effective for them. There was a company that did some exploration in the 1970s, and they built a road which they were required to remediate afterwards. Remediate meaning bring it back to what it was. It's impossible to do. You can still see the scar of that road from, what is that now, more than 40 years ago. So in our opinion, it's not a good thing to do, period. But the Bureau of Land Management, who manages that land, it's under their purview. They are required by law to consider mining companies and their request to kind of exploit mining claims that they have. So there's a process that the BLM has set up, which is called an environmental impact statement, which is pretty rigorous, and it's taking into account a lot of things, and also the 23,000 comments that were given the last time there was a comment period, which there was a huge turnout of people, and the vast majority of those were against the project. And so there's a new process that's happening now, this environmental impact statement. There's a comment period that's going to be coming live anytime now in the next few months. It could be soon. We don't know exactly. But as soon as that happens, we really want and need people to comment again, because the comments that they gave previously are not going to carry over to this new process.
I had understood they left. They said we're leaving. Is that because the permitting was denied, or why was that? Or was that really a misquote?
Well, it was about a year and a half ago, and it was when the BLM said, "Oh, you need to do an environmental impact statement in order for us to consider your request to do this larger phase of exploratory drilling." And they said, "That's unheard of. We don't want to do that process. It's costly. We're pulling out." There was it seems like a serious reshuffle within their own company as well. The president or the person that was leading it was fired. Somebody else came on. But then so everybody was quite happy that it seemed like they were leaving, and it seemed like a win. But for a lot of us, we kind of knew that it was probably going to be a temporary win.